Good morning, welcome to Glass by Matt, and today, by request, I'm going to show you some lathe techniques. Now most glass blowers, I'm given to understand, don't have lathes, and that's probably given the fact that they're probably $20,000 new, and that's just for some of the smaller lathes like the F lathes, or the A lathes, the U lathes. Different lathes, at least from the Litton company, are given labels of, you know, A, U, K, and this is to designate their size. So what I have over here is a Litton F lathe. Now this machine's probably 20 or 30 years old, maybe older. You keep them in good running condition and they'll last the entirety of your life. Hence why they're so expensive. Anyway, what I've done here is I've taken a piece of green tubing. This is some scrap left over from a project I did some time ago, and I've joined it onto a piece of 10mm capillary tubing. And this is just a very heavy wall tubing. The opening isn't very large, but there's lots of glass on the walls for me to work with. It's also very, very strong, so it's capable of holding this green tubing. Now this is 26mm heavy wall tubing, and over here I have the same size in clear glass. And what I've done is I've got my blows hose hooked up through this, the tailstock, and I've got a stopper in here in the clear tubing in the headstock. And at some point I might, depending on how the project goes, change it out for a stopper with a blow hose attached to it. That way I can blow into the other end. We'll see what we can do here. We're going to attempt to make a goblet. Now what I'm going to show you here technique-wise can be done by hand as well in front of a torch. If you were to do such a thing, you would probably end up holding your tubing, pulling a point, and then as you were working it, either attaching a blow hose later or turning it and blowing into it. The whole idea behind what I'm going to show you today is that it can be replicated in both ways. The difference being that when I'm done, I'm going to try to keep everything squared away in the lathe, whereas if you were doing it by hand, you would probably have to get a pair of long fingers to hold on to the piece and then continue to work from there. Working by hand is not exactly my specialty, so for those of you who watch this who are capable of doing it by hand, kudos, keep doing what you're doing. For everyone else, pay attention. I'm going to try to do this at an angle so you'll be able to see what's going on the lathe. Bear in mind that if you were doing this yourself, you would probably be more in front of it, and as you can see, you're just getting the back of my head. So I'm going to do my best to kind of do it off at an angle to let you get a full view of what's going on. The thing that I enjoy about lathes the most is, for a glass blower, it's kind of like an air conditioning. Sure, a standard rotating fan can cool a room, but an AC does it a lot better, and it does it a lot faster. The same is true with a lathe. It does it a lot better, it does it a lot faster. It leaves my hands free, so that way I can step away from the lathe and keep a piece spinning. I can even set like a 4-stack burner on it to keep it warm, and I can walk away from it if I have to. So that's one of the other advantages, is that lathes can be used by anybody. You don't have to have the fastest fingers in the world. You could be a child. The lathe does the work for you. All you have to do is be able to hold the torch where it needs to go. So hopefully that will become apparent. Let's get started. Now what I've got here is a national torch with a hush tip. Now what that means, and I'm going to turn this off and see if the camera can get a focus on it. What that means is that this tip has a variety of little holes on it, all punched out in a pattern, and this is designed to throw a very large, soft flame. You can sharpen it up just a little bit. It throws a lot of heat in a wide area. It's not very good if you're looking to heat just a specific place, but for a project such as this, it's excellent. And for something where the tubing is so heavy, such as in this case, you most definitely do not want to be going with just a standard national tip. Even a national 8, which has, I think, an 1/8 inch, maybe even a 1/4 inch hole, it's just not going to cut it. It'll get close, but it's not going to give you the heat you want in the area you want. Now I'm going to try to do most of this job with this. In the event that I can't, what I have here are some ratchet tips. This is a 5/8 ratchet tip, and what I've discovered is that they fit beautifully right over the tip, and you can twist it and pull the tip right off, or if the tip is hot, you can put it back on and screw it back into place. And this is very useful because of the fact that as I'm working, this tip is going to get very hot. Not red hot, mind you, but it will get hot. So, got it, light it from my pilot. As you can see, it throws a very big flame. It's not very sharp at all. So, let's start. Now I'm going to begin by softening this up. Now because I pre-joined these pieces, there's a lot of strain in them. We're going to start by using this soft flame to just try to uniformly heat the glass. And it's a heavy wall, so we're going to have to take our time. Now I've got the lathe spinning kind of fast. We're going to slow it down a bit. While I'm preheating this, I want to tell you, that's the other advantage of using the lathe, is that you can speed it up and slow it down, and you're not going to have to worry about, is my hand cramping, or I'm getting tired. Okay. These are nice. These are starting to get nice and hot here, and if there were any sharp angles in this splice that I did between the clear and the green, they would have become apparent at this point. So we're going to go ahead and heat it up a bit more. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with what is eventually going to become the foot of this goblet. Typically speaking, you would blow out a bubble, flame cut it, and then paddle it flat, and that would be your foot, wherein you would then attach long fingers to hold onto it, and you would continue to work the rest of the goblet blowing from the other end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blow out the bubble for the foot, and then I'm going to continue to work the rest of the goblet, and I will flame cut that at the very end, or I will leave it completely intact and cut it on the wet saw. Okay, so this is getting nice and hot. Let's get to it. Now whenever you're working tubing, before you start to blow really, really hard, you want to give it a quick test blow. If the glass starts to expand, then you know that it's hot enough to begin working. Now what I just did there was I went and tightened up my tailstock to make sure that it was holding this glass appropriately. Sometimes when the tubing heats up, the chucks can get a little loose. That's okay, just quickly stop the lathe, or wait for the glass to cool down, then stop the lathe, tighten up your chuck, resume. It's a very common problem in older lathes, or I should say in older chucks. Now what I'm doing here is I'm now heating up. I took my graphite and I paddled out right here where I want the separation between my reservoir and the actual stem to be. But I haven't paddled it all the way down because I want air to be able to flow to both ends. Remember, I'm blowing from the tailstock here. What I'm doing